and happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. Today, I would like to welcome Jenna Katsen. She is the marketing manager for 3 different brands, not just one, Travelift, Shuttlelift, and ExacTech. She is also known as the manufacturing marketing maven, so you know I'm going to get along with you right off the bat. How are you, Jenna? How are you doing?
I'm great today, Megan. How are you?
Good. I really love that you're in the shop right now. You have people moving around in the background, and we get to see what manufacturing is from where you're at. So thank you for setting that up. We're definitely going to be hearing some sounds too. So, the more authentic, the better, I say. So thank you for joining us today. Can you give us a brief introduction of who you are to start this episode off, and then dive into a little bit of each brand that you're helping marketing for?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to be doing this today. So I am on our break room mezzanine above our assembly shop floor. This is where work happens for 2 of the brands that I oversee. The first and most better known is Marine Travelift. We manufacture customized boat handling equipment for marinas and shipyards around the world. This is not a product I was familiar with before I started with the companies almost a year and a half ago. And it's a pretty cool thing that we do. Let me expand on that brand before I move along. We've got 3 products that we build, and I made little visuals for us today. So this is our Marina forklift product. It's an absolutely gigantic forklift designed for dry stack marinas. So when vessels are hauled out for storage, whether indoor and outdoor, like the racks you see in this photo, they do some sort of marina lift truck like this.
Super cool. I didn't even know that existed. That's awesome.
Yeah, unless you are in that, marina or shipyard world, you probably wouldn't. So this is great exposure for us too. The product we build the most of is this mobile boat hoist. And there's actually 2 of those machines in this photo. This is at a really impressive mega yacht yard in Australia. And the smaller machine you see is a 75-ton capacity machine for lifting smaller boats out of the water for survey or service or storage. And then the one behind it is an absolute behemoth that has an 820-ton lifting capacity. So we build those for huge ships, like a lot of the workboat style vessels, barges, tugs, and then those big, huge, super and mega yachts. The other product we build is this self-propelled transporter trailer. So
super cool.
You can see the operator here is driving this with a wireless remote, and the vessel is transported by that machine to wherever it will land and be, blocked.
So that big trailer you can control with a wireless remote.
Yes. Yeah.
That my kids would go crazy for that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and just to clarify too, so a lot of people know why you might be in the marine side of things. You're in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, which I heard is a beautiful area. I personally have not made my way up to that part of Wisconsin, but it's always good to have a fellow Wisconsinite on Mavens of Manufacturing. So I think it's really cool that you're talking about what is actually being manufactured in that community. And I've had conversations with a lot of people where, depending on where you're at is going to determine what you're manufacturing and the products and stuff that you're producing. So can you tell us a little bit more about, Travelift? Like, obviously those are the products that you're building, but then you also have Shuttlelift and ExacTech. So can you get into those brands a little bit and let us know what those are?
So the Marine Travelift brand was born right here in Sturgeon Bay in 1954. So we've been building, bigger and better models ever since then. In 1987, Shuttlelift became our industrial retail division. And a quick story behind the name of that brand is that the first machine built under the Shuttlelift brand was actually for NASA. They needed some piece of equipment to transport recovered rocket boosters. So we created an industrial division and now have a lineup of mobile gantry cranes that we assemble in the same shop. So I've got a couple cute visuals for that too, if I can share those.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here is our mobile gantry crane. This we call our DB model, and you can see that there's two big like I-beam cross beams on the top. So we see a lot of these in industries like precast concrete, like you can see here, like power generation. We serve the steel market quite a bit.
Okay.
And we have a couple other styles. This is our SB or single beam model. You can see in this example, the operator is actually standing on that rail car and removing those steel coil with a customized like C spreader on that apparatus.
Wow. Those pictures aren't doing the size justice. I gotta be frank about that, but that's super cool. And those you're making those giant cranes.
We design, engineer, and build these right here in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. So this is what we call our SL model, which is basically the same machine as our mobile boat hoists.
Okay.
Configured for whatever unique industrial lifting application they're needed for.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So let me bring it back around to ExacTech. That is the other brand in our within our family of companies, and that is a metal fabrication shop located about a quarter mile from the assembly shop that's over my shoulder. So that's where our teams are taking raw plate steel, forming, welding, painting, finishing components before they come here. And having both facilities under the same ownership is a huge benefit for us. We have a lot of control over our timeline, over the quality, because everything we do is customized. There's no buying a model off the shelf. It is totally spec'd out for the customer site, the application, now and forecasted. So
that's really cool. Well, we have a few comments already coming through. So we have Sylvan, good day. Hi, thank you for joining us today. We have Courtney Fernandez from Automation Ladies. Courtney, thank you for joining us today. Love you, girl. And then we have Toby. She's saying, hey now. Hey, Toby, how are you? Thanks for joining us. And then we have Philippe from France. Thank you, Philippe, for joining us all the way from France. That's awesome. I think you're my first person from France joining our live. That's awesome. Spread the news. Get it out there. So then tell us about yourself, Jenna. How did you get involved with engineering and manufacturing? Because most women that I've talked to, they a common answer has been, well, I kind of fell into this sector by accident. So how did you join?
That's the case for my story as well. My previous career was in food service hospitality. I was bartending, waiting tables. I managed a handful of establishments, and I loved that work, but recognized that it wasn't necessarily sustainable. At least, it's hard on your body. It's hard on. There's no consistency. So I went back to school for marketing, having done a little bit of social media management for some of the establishments that I was managing, and I really liked it. I like messaging. I like content creation. So I did a lightning fast 10-month boot camp program through the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Hey.
And was connected with some executives within the company, recruited, and I was employed before I even finished my program. And it's been a really great fit. My day-to-day is really exciting. I do a lot of different things. In any given day, I can be out on the shop floor with a camera, creating, photo and video content for sales and recruiting. I oversee all of our digital assets, like our websites and our social media accounts, maintain relationships with the trade associations that we're part of, and coordinate the trade shows that go along with those. We have a handful coming up for the industrial side this spring. We'll be at the Precast Show, the Iron and Steel Institute show later this year, ConExpo out in Vegas next month. Our teams are really excited for that. So that's a dynamic position. It's a lot of fun.
I hear that's a big show. I was gonna try to make that this year, but unfortunately I won't be able to go. But I heard that show is just huge. Like
Yeah.
it's just you get all the big equipment and massive machinery. So I wish I could go and visit your guys' booth because yeah, those pictures don't do your equipment justice at all by any means. So it would be really cool to see it up close and personal. One of the things that you said, which I really like, is that, you know, you did this program through the UW of Madison and, you know, your company connected with you that way. And I think that's important because um, a lot of manufacturers are having a hard time right now filling some of the positions they have available. And I think making those connections at the college level is important because you can find a lot of great talent if you get in front of them soon enough, in front of the students soon enough. And then the other thing too is just how many hats you wear in marketing. I don't think a lot of people outside of this sector know that, you know, small businesses, small to medium sized businesses, you have to wear a lot of hats. So you're using a bunch of different skills in a bunch of different ways, and you have to be able to think on your toes and adapt and stuff. So I think it's really cool that you're doing all this for not just one brand but three different brands, because that's like three different brand voices. So one of the things that did catch my eye about you is you're using, you know, you call yourself the marketing maven, and you know, I've never asked this question before, so I'm just kind of curious, you know, why was that important for you to include on your LinkedIn profile, and what does Maven mean for you? Because I've never really talked about this on my show live before. I've talked about it to other people off the show, but what does it mean to you to be a maven of something? Because that's I think it's cool that you have it in your name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. I so I at the tail end of my program, when we were talking about our, you know, next steps and going out and seeking careers in the marketing field, it was recommended we shine up our LinkedIn profiles, which is not a social media channel I used previously, so I'm very new to it. And
Okay.
one of the details that was sort of hammered into us was, you know, everyone has a profile picture, everyone has a name. What's going to set you apart initially when anyone views your profile is your headline. And it can
Yep.
be anything about you, who you are, what you do. And I'm a huge fan of self-appointed titles and alliteration. So I put that out there, which I think is slowly what led me to get connected to you initially is, you know,
Yep.
seeing a lot of manufacturing and definitely female empowerment sort of content served to me in my LinkedIn feed. And then
Yeah.
and then we got connected, which is great. But at the end of the day, what does Maven mean to me? It means that, especially here in the marketing sector, that I am a storyteller and a champion for who I'm representing. And that not only is the company and the products, but that's all of the hardworking men and women who are, you know, putting in hours every single day building what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And in my role, I get to work really closely with our sales team, you know, developing sales related content. But I also work very closely with our human resources director, who is an absolute rock star. And we handle a lot of the strategic marketing for recruiting stuff together. So it's really, you know, putting out there that manufacturing offers really safe employment. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
what we talk about is that we're year round, we're full time, we're indoor, like you can see, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a steady paycheck. It's not a risky place to be when it comes to employment in the trades. And that's a message I want to sing from the mountaintops. I want everyone to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you said before, working for, you know, a small to medium sized business and wearing a lot of hats, when I think about that, I see opportunity for everyone, every skill set, every personality
Mm-hmm.
type. You know, there's room for social butterflies in sales and manufacturing. There's room for creative types for me in marketing positions. You know, if you are a hands-on, you know, tradesman or woman, there's roles for you as a welder, CNC machinist. You know, our
Yep.
mechanical assemblies, our assemblers are on the floor assembling these huge machines, and it's not a assembly line sort of production facility.
Well, the other thing too that I really appreciate your background for is that there's still a misconception that it's this dirty, dark, dangerous, dull place, right?
Right.
And clearly through your background, it's not dirty. Like, you have a very clean shop there. Yeah, it might be dangerous because you're working with metal and you're welding things, and sometimes injuries happen, but it's not dark or dull. Like, you're clearly having some movement back there, and it's exciting to make those big machines. And then you're telling me that you can control it wirelessly, which what kid doesn't want a remote control car? So you have ways to talk about it and make it fun and exciting. And I appreciate that you're showing the background, because then that helps us kind of, negate all of those misconceptions that it's this dirty, dark, dangerous place. Yes, you're going to have the dangerous portion of it. I mean, you're putting things together, and some of it's metal on metal, and you're working with like different kind of sharp tools and everything. But then that's why companies come up with safety policies. And yeah, accidents happen, but it's not a sector to be afraid of. Like, it's moving, it's grinding, it's fulfilling. You're helping people that have real world problems solve those issues. And it's not just for any individual, it's for a lot of people. So I think that's really cool. One of the things that I want to touch on, and I want to call out Shannon because she said hi too. Thanks for putting your name this time, Shannon. I know you've been having a problem with LinkedIn. And anybody else tuning in, if you have questions for Jenna, feel free to drop them in the comments or put your comments there. But one of the things you said is you work very closely with the HR representative. And I wanted to dive into a little bit of, some of the major roadblocks that Sturgeon Bay specifically is facing when attracting and recruiting the next generation, because you brought up a great point in one of our previous conversations that we had before doing the live. And I wanted you to kind of discuss that a little bit, because again, I feel like roadblocks are going to be a little bit different across communities depending on what they're manufacturing and what their talent pool looks like, because some communities are more populated than others. So those less populated places are probably not going to have that diverse of a pool to pick from, and they're going to have to think of creative ways to pick outside of it. But Sturgeon Bay, there's an interesting roadblock with like your housing and stuff. So can you share that with us? And explain what's going
on. So for those who are unfamiliar with Sturgeon Bay and Door County in Wisconsin, we are Wisconsin's little thumb. So the peninsula that separates the waters of Green Bay from Lake Michigan. So we are essentially a dead-end road and also a tourist destination. So something that has happened in our community over the last, I'd say, decade or so, is a lot of our starter homes have been turned into short-term rental properties. So that's been a big challenge for the community and our year-round workforce to grow. Great news is that our city has approved the construction of, I think it's close to 300 new rentable units. So obviously, they see the need for housing for our hardworking men and women. Not only in the tourist industry, but the industry that supports our area year round. And then the other challenge is definitely reaching, I'd say, like the next generation of the manufacturing workforce. And in my opinion, a lot of that happens, when people are children. If they're exposed to different things, like those really important ages, I think they'd be likelier to pursue a career in that field. So we rely heavily a lot for our recruitment tactics on connecting with our local high schools, all of the regional tech schools, and making sure that everyone has the opportunity to put a welding helmet on and see if that clicks and that's what they want to do, or Every October for Manufacturing Month, we open up the shops for local student tours. And it's the same thing. We want everyone to know that there's a place for everyone in manufacturing, and there's a place for you to be successful and prosperous.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's interesting too. So like, there's people that are willing to drive long distance. That's a live episode.
Yep, this
I
is
find
real.
that it's interesting that like one of your challenges is that you don't have enough housing for your full-time employees. So that would be a challenge because if there's people that aren't interested in driving a certain amount of time, I remember back in the day, I was driving like an hour and a half out of my way to go to one job. And part of the compromise they made with me is that I only had to be in the office 2 times a week. So then
Okay.
the rest of the time I could work remotely. But in manufacturing, if you're doing all of the production part of it, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I think it's interesting that your community is like, okay, we really need to solve this issue so that we're giving an opportunity to our full-time employees to actually be closer to the place that they're working. For the student side of things, you mentioned Manufacturing Month. For those who are tuning in, that's in October. A great opportunity for you to, connect with your local manufacturers and see what they're doing in terms of educating their communities about what they do for manufacturing and engineering. But I'm interested in what you guys are doing. Like, what are some of the activities instead of just bringing them in for facility tours? Do you have other activities that you're doing as well? Are you going to the high schools? Are you going to like the elementary schools? What are sort of some of the activities that you're creating or executing on to showcase some of the things that you're doing within your factories?
So that's a great question. In addition to the tours that we do every October, we have a team that does a lot of recruitment events with the high schools and the tech schools. So we'll go in with a presentation of who we are and what we do, what positions are available, what a day in the life looks like. Um, for those in our manufacturing facility and here in our assembly facility. Um, as far as like the elementary age group, we've got a really strong connection with our local Boys and Girls Club chapter, and I think it occurs every spring. We do a challenge with them called the Move It Challenge, where we bring
Okay.
in some structure, and some of our engineering team leads it to basically supplement like their STEM programming. So they've got a worksheet, a couple different challenges, and work together as a team to sort of understand some basic physics and some basic machines. So that's a
Yeah.
fun like outreach that we do every year.
That's really cool. Well, Jenna, this has been a great conversation. And again, I've never been to the Sturgeon Bay area. So I want to come out and maybe take some video of what you're actually doing and actually see face to face, like how big these machines and equipment are. And before I get to my last question with you, I do want to call out Hank too. Hank's from the Canada area, and he has 2 daughters that tune in Mavens as much as they can. So if you want to follow hashtag Junior Board of Directors, make sure you're tagging that for some pictures that you might be posting because his daughters are watching, and I know they like to learn about opportunities in
Oh,
engineering and
cool.
manufacturing. So yeah, make sure you're tagging that. And then we have Brad. You both are great examples of being Mavens, so knowledgeable. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Brad
So
is in the offices right below me. He's one of our buyers here for the companies.
hi, Brad. Thanks for joining us. Well, before I let you go, I like to ask all of my guests if you had one ask for our audience, what would that ask be?
That one ask, besides shameless self promotion and getting connected with me and the companies, would be to also um, be a maven or a champion of the manufacturing sector. Let's continue to, tell these stories and to sing its praises from the mountaintop, because we can't live in a world without manufacturing, and to really encourage the next generation of the workforce to pursue a career here.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand outside of this sector how much of the things that they use on a personal basis is manufactured. And I don't think they understand the amount of work that goes into it. So, like for your cars, for example, and your cell phones, like they have miniature components in those items to make it all work. And there's a lot of hours that go in just for each of those individual components that are in like your cars and your phones and even in your shoes. Like there's a lot of like process and stuff. Well, another shameless plug for you. So if anybody has any questions about the 3 brands that you work for or how to get a hold of you, where should they go?
Let's get connected on LinkedIn. That's the easiest place. If you want to know more, drop me a message. I'll send you a link tree to any of my brands. You can explore it and see what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, thank you so much again for joining us today on this week's episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. I'm definitely going to be in touch with you. I wish I could go to ConExpo and meet you, but I'll be in touch soon to see where else you're going to be, and hopefully I can meet up with you then. Otherwise, I'm just going to plan a trip to Sturgeon Bay so you can come out there.
Anytime you can come up. We actually have a house DB crane, 110 capacity. This thing is the size of a house in our loading yard out back, and I'll set you up with the wireless remote. You can drive that bad boy.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. To everyone who is tuning in this week, thank you so much. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next week for another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Meaghan.
Bye.
This has been another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. Subscribe for more and make sure to tune in next time.